Closing time. Time to get the fuck out of my store so I can go home. That's blatantly how those lyrics go to that song. What's up, kids? How are you doing today? I'm apparently sneezing a lot, and it's quite muggy. The weather situation since the last podcast where we were slowly falling into the sun doesn't seem to have improved. It has gone a little wetter, which I appreciate greatly, and I really hope it's going to rain today. The clouds are grey over Lincoln, where I live, and that's a good thing. It's not good for my head. I'm one of those people who gets migraines and headaches when the air pressure changes. I don't know if it's a real thing or whether it's just me and kind of my own thing. What's the word? Hypochondria, maybe? I don't know, and I correlate the two together. But either way, there's something which I always have to... it seems to happen. It seems to correlate quite well. Every time, well, not every time, but most of the time, I can wake up with a migraine, and then if later on it'll either rain, or the pressure and heat temperature will change. I am struggling with words. This is going to go really well. So today, I'm going to attempt to do something which I find very hard to do, which is essentially discuss my own work. And we've been through this before. This is not a new thing for anyone who's listened to the podcast. Me discussing my work is painful. It's awful. It's like pulling teeth as I try and gradually work around it and attempt not to be misconstrued. But today I need to talk about a project which is extremely important to me, and I thought the best way to do that would be to explain the origins of it. And it would also help give you a little insight into it if you are following. So the project I'm talking about, of course, is Potatropy, which is exactly how you pronounce it. And the world of Potato Boy, which, yeah, if you don't know, outside of the podcast world, I say podcast world, I don't really feel like I'm in the podcast world. I just make podcasts. Here's a little secret. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Very few podcasts I listen to, and I don't listen to them regularly. They tend to be ones which I've just come across, and I go, oh, all right, cool, there's a little podcast, this could be interesting, let's have a listen to that. And that's it, and then the rest of the time I just put out my own podcast and ask you guys to listen to them. It's a very selfish way of living and creating. I would not recommend it. You should always get involved with the people. But back to the point at hand. Outside of podcasting, I do illustration and fine art things and create things. Sorry, just stirring my cup. Nice little stirring sound for you there. And one of those things I do is illustrate, and recently I've started promoting and highlighting a project which I'm doing called Potatropy. Potatropy is intended to be a book which will get released next year, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But essentially it follows a character named Potato Boy. And why do I need to discuss Potato Boy with you? I think, I don't know. In a way, I wanted to have a permanent record of what Potato Boy is about, how it came to be, and why you might be interested in it. Because I think it's pretty hard to tell from the outside what Potato Boy is. It just appeared out of nowhere for a lot of people. And the general reaction I get to a lot of Potato Boy stuff is just, why are you doing this? It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. I've got a couple of good friends who do not enjoy Potato Boy in any way, shape, or form. If you want to see Potato Boy, if you've not heard anything about the Potato Boy stuff, I will leave a link in all the bios, and you can go check it out. But essentially, what its format is at the minute is just a small cartoon drawing, which I do and put out. And that's kind of how I'm promoting it at the moment. That's the original format it took. So I'm getting off point. So to get to the original point, right? So the start of, when was it? Maybe this year, last year. I'm not entirely sure when it came to fruition. Either way, I decided I wanted to make a book. I wanted to make an illustrated book about something, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I had a few ideas. I've still got a few ideas. It says handling 8 projects at once. I still have a few ideas of different books which I would like to do, but I wanted something which was fairly straightforward and would would be concept heavy, because I see a lot of things out there which aren't particularly concept led, and they're led by a few gimmicks, and they can be very good, but they don't have too much depth to them. And as anyone knows, I like everything I do to have some level of depth. I never like anything I do to have a kind of like a surface value. Literally everything I've ever made, there is a surface value to it, but I'm inviting you and I'm asking you to look underneath that, just for a moment, so you can kind of get more depth to it. Because I thoroughly believe that art is about that. That's what art should be about. Any creation of art, writing, illustration, drawing, sculpture, should be about presenting something and then inviting people to ask more about it, inviting people to question themselves and what they're seeing, and it adds that extra layer. So there's always more going on, or I'd hope it's obvious that there's more going on within each thing I made. I mean, today, we're in August at the minute. I recently updated my Facebook page with the August illustration from the calendar of last year. Oh, vibrating. And that's a tortoise. It's a tortoise mopping a hallway. It's a janitorial tortoise. The slogan for the month, which on the calendar, is I forgot you were here. On the surface value, that's a it's a depressed tortoise. It's an apathetic tortoise. Fair enough. It goes in the calendar of mildly depressed animals. Then we move on. That's on the surface. But when you look past that, you don't know whether the tortoise is talking about you. You don't know if you're talking to the tortoise. And then it allows you to kind of look past that and maybe relate to the tortoise a bit. It sounds insane any art sounds insane when you try and describe it more. But there's a few things, little hints, the decaying wall in the background, the fact that the mop is dirty and he's still mopping the floor. There's a few little hints which I've put in to kind of symbolize different things. And everything I do, I want to do that with. So I wanted to make this book which would do that. But I didn't have anything particularly concrete, nice pun there, for creating that. Because as I say, I have hundreds of ideas, literally hundreds of ideas, and they all get written down or created in some way. I always try and do that 1% thing. And I just didn't have anything which I thought people could relate to instantly. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking for something for them to someone to look at it and go, I need to know more. I need to know more about whatever's going on here. And a lot of stuff which can be made, I think, comes across as obvious. So a lot of people don't want to look deeper. And I need something a bit abstract. And so I created Potato Boy. So Potato Boy originated from a small zine which I put out. I've mentioned it before. It's called Null Point. If you want to know more, go to nullpoint.org. And it started as a single-page comic book within that zine. And the reason I'd made it was essentially as a joke. Initially, it started as a joke because whenever you pick up magazines and newspapers, there's always a little comic strip. There's always a slice-of-life comic strip, and most of the time they end on quite an up note. Some of them can be pretty dark, but they never really broach a subject properly. They never really... I mean, there are exceptions, obviously. I mean, I'm not that pretentious. But a lot of them don't. They'll joke it, they'll make a joke, and it'll kind of sit there, and you can read into it what you will. But I wanted something which was really blunt, in a way. I wanted something which could sit on the outside and just say, yeah, so this is crap. Here's my opinion. And that was another thing. I wanted a way which I could just slide in my opinion with some slight distraction from something. And that's done a lot of ways. If you make a mascot for whatever theme or whatever, what's the word, cause you have, if you make a mascot and then slap a slogan on it, that's what you're doing. You're attempting to divert the attention away from yourself by giving it a mascot. And that's what I did with Potato Boy. I created Potato Boy as an initial, as a joke. And the idea was that you would have this strange, almost benign creature on a page, surrounded by the thoughts of a potato. And it didn't matter whether people were angry about it or offended by it or even agreed with it, because it's still just a potato. So you can't really argue with it. You unless you unless you thoroughly put a face to the potato, and I guess that's what I'm inviting in a way by putting myself on top of it. You're completely distracted by it. There's this weird. Why does this potato have so many eyes? Because potatoes have eyes, by the way. That's why potatoes have eyes. Why does it have tentacles? It doesn't have tentacles. It has roots because potatoes are roots. He's kind of a seed potato. There's lots of things which I wanted to put into it, and initially it just started as a joke. I drew a potato boy. I liked it. I liked the abstract style. I get a lot of interest out of lowbrow art styles, which were prevalent in the late 90s or the 2000s. And a lot of that feeds into what I do. So when I do exaggerated surreal stuff, it comes across like that. And I also want something which would be black and white, and potatoes are kind of brown, grey colours. And it grew from that. Because I think I'd done about maybe 4 or 5 zines. I published them bi-monthly. And every one I handed to somebody came back to me with, "I love Potato Boy." And I couldn't understand it. I still don't understand it, in a way. It's a strange feeling to have someone come back to you with something which you created nonsensically and say, this right here, this is important. You should do something with this. And it took a lot of convincing from friends and other people to kind of make me run with it. I had no realization I was going to, but I did, and that's what I'm doing. Oh dear, just knocked something off my desk. So from there, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with Potato Boy, because he was a solo. He was a solo page feature. I was doing it for each subject within Null Point, and eventually I settled on the fact that I should probably do a Potato Boy book, and how that format of that book would come was something which needed discussing. So I have settled on that now, by the way. I've come to a conclusion with it. The intention for the Potato Boy book, called Potatropy, is, which by the way is a play on the word potato and entropy. My intention is for it to come out next year. And it will be a mixture of standalone single-page pieces, as per its origin within Null Point, discussing different subjects, as well as an origin of Potato Boy, and how that being came to be in the format is. Not so much as I've just described here. This isn't the story of Potato Boy. This is just how I ended up encountering him. And I wanted to make something which would allow people to kind of relate to him more. I mean, this was the strange thing in a way. The story which I'm trying to write for Potato Boy isn't so much about getting people to connect to him, but it was part of it was explaining to myself why people would connect with that character and why people would want to see more Potato Boy. And it broaches a lot of that without giving too much away. And that's the kind of the goal with it. Now, a question which kind of comes up is how this will take effect and why we want to read this. And again, I'm trying to put in multiple levels to this. I'm trying to balance it as a concept as much as I am as a cartoon. What I don't want it to do is I don't want it to become a cartoon. I don't want it to become just a story and a punchline comic. So again, the stories and themes within the book, whilst there is some jokes in there and a lot of it is intended to be funny in my usual dry style, a lot of it isn't. It's a, in a way you could say it's a philosophy book. It's a philosophy book with a cartoon. It's giving you theology and my theology and philosophy on life and how things are and how I see other people, and it's asking you to be distracted by the fact that there's a potato on the page. Now, why a potato? So a potato, as I say originally, was chosen because it was a fairly inanimate object. It's one which you don't really think of having life. Even thinking back to old TV shows where they animate vegetables and, get you to eat your healthy greens. Potato was never really a thing, but people love potatoes because starch is amazing. Carbohydrates is amazing. Potatoes, for me, are one of the greatest foods in the world. hands down, this was another reason I chose potato, because I love food. Food is something which I have a great connection with. I was a fat kid, like a pretty fat kid. I'm talking picked on because I was fat. And it was something which I love, and I still love food. It's why I'm gaining weight at the moment. Why I have to watch what I eat. I can't not think about it. And if potatoes are on offer, I'm going to be eating potatoes in one format or another. Mashed, boiled, fried, sautéed, whatever you want to do, throwing potato in it is going to have me involved in it. So it was something which I felt everyone could relate to, because most people I speak to love potatoes in one format or another. Everyone loves one format of potato. That tuber can do so much in general to a meal, to life, and I think that in a way, I think that adds to the why people enjoy hearing about Potato Boy and learning about Potato Boy. And on top of that, I think that the surreal nature of it all, the fact that in a way I'm giving life to this inanimate wad, I think kind of captures that. I don't know if you'd agree. Maybe you'd agree. Tell me if you agree. I'm curious. This is the other thing. I like hearing about why people enjoy reading about Potato Boy. Of why it's a comforting thing for people to have. And I have heard that a lot of people have kind of read Potato Boy and said it's a comfort. There's something about the way it's drawn, written. I don't understand it. I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm really enjoying this concept we're having together. As touchy feely and concept led as that is, I'm really enjoying that. I'm really enjoying having people express to me their opinions on Potato Boy and why they're interested, and why they don't like Potato Boy, and why you find him creepy. There's different ways I'm kind of approaching it. As I say, this is very hard for me to explain, and I in a way I feel like the problem with me explaining anything to do with my work is that everything seems obvious, because I'm fully aware of the concept and themes and everything which is behind Potato Boy. So I'm just re-explaining myself, forgetting that not everyone has had this conversation with me, and not everyone is inside my head. That'd be weird if you were. I'm just saying. Just checking the old time, so we're not going on too long. But that is the plan. And I wanted to express the plan to you, because some of you have been very kind to me. Some of you have been very kind in supporting the creation of the project. And I wanted to give you a clear review on where that's going and how that's being. So this is the part where you just learn the plan. Whilst I take a sip of coffee. As I say, this year I'm very busy. One thing or another. The calendar is intended to come out again, so I've obviously got that to work on. But I am working on Potato Boy constantly. It is one of those things which is now just kind of running constantly, and the intention is to bring it out next year. At the start of the year, I will be looking for conventions and events I can attend later in the year and take Potato Boy to. I'm likely looking to crowdfund the project to get the first issue out, and then I'm hopefully going to take it to publishers. But who knows? There's no clear set plan. I don't think anyone in terms of the literary world has ever had to try and promote something like Potato Boy. So I'm not expecting any kind of book deal in any way, shape, or form. So thoroughly trying to crowdfund this and promote it. And really, if you want to help me as a creator, all I can ask is you keep sharing, commenting, and liking, because of Facebook's algorithms and Instagram's algorithms. All those things help me dramatically to get my work out there, and save me money by not having to pay for advertising on Facebook, which is terrible. Let's face it, it is terrible. In the new year as well, there will be Potato Boy merchandise. There is a few bits of Potato Boy merchandise already. There's a few things on Redbubble, a few stickers you can get hold of. And if you want Potato Boy before then, you can search out the Null Point Zine, because there's one every month, every couple of months, which goes there. And that's the plan. That's the key. That's the line. And hopefully next year we'll have ourselves a nice little potatropy book. Something which I'm putting a lot of thought and effort into, and I want to be proud of it when I'm finished with it. So I'm being very harsh on myself. And I really hope you enjoy it, because I think it'll be a nice little book. It'll be a nice little concept-led abstraction for us to kind of look at and say, yeah, that was a thing. That happened. Potato Boy. And if that does, then it allows me to do, more Potato Boy in the future, which would be great. But I'd love to hear what you think. That's my final point on this little podcast today. Probably a little shorter than usual. I want to know what you think of Potato Boy. I want to know what you want to see from Potato Boy. Any subjects you want to discuss. Anything you could do with or need to know or understand. Ask me questions. Send me questions. As much as I love to have you share and say you like my work, I'm curious. I'm a curious person. So please, feel free to ask me questions, point it out that it's weird, point it out that it doesn't make sense, and bring me those notes. And I think if you're going to grow as a creator, you need to be able to take constructive criticism. You need to be able to take negative criticism and turn it into something positive. And that's what I'm kind of looking for in a way. As much as I want to explain it to you all, that constructive feedback is what pushes me. The same with the podcast. Is everything I make, I like to hear what people are thinking of it. Not just because then it allows me to know that you've seen it, but I like to know what people are thinking about. Even with the podcast, there's changes coming for the podcast next year, but I'm keeping those kind of under wraps, and we'll see where we end up. I'm hoping that explains in some way how Potato Boy came to be as a relatable character. I'm hoping that explains where he's going. And most of all, I hope that you'll enjoy it when we finally get to that point. But let me know what you think. Thank you for listening. If you would, go like the Potatropy page and Instagram and share the crap out of all that footage. And I will talk to you guys later.